Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here. We are here to talk a little bit more about the Explore implementation with US Forest Service. I want to start by thanking you. Huge gratitude to this team that's worked so hard. I especially want to point out Sadie. Sadie Wehunt has been a champion for this Explore implementation, not only for the Forest Service, but also for outfitters. We continually see the work that you do and how much it matters. Sadie, thank you. Um, and obviously, thanks to this team as well. Members, we have a lot of people that have shown up and a lot of people that have signed up. Thank you for being members of America Outdoors. It matters, and your support helps us be able to do this work. If you are not yet a member, we would love for you to consider joining and supporting this work so we can continue to get better. Couple upcoming, we have another member town hall webinar scheduled for February 25th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. We are going to do basically the same idea, same thing with the BLM. So if you're a Bureau of Land Management permit, we're going to have this Explore implementation discussion with them on Wednesday, February 25th. So please make sure you engage to that as well. And then we also have Camp Washington coming up March 3rd through the 6th. The AO team and a bunch of outfitters will be headed to Washington, D.C. to talk about what's going on in our industry with members of Congress, with some of the leaders of our agencies. So please, if you're interested, if you want to support that effort, please reach out to Erin or I individually whenever you can. So moving into Explore into our discussion today, we are recording today and we do have recordings of all these previous sessions. In a few minutes, I will drop those in the chat, the link for YouTube. So if you need to catch up on what was previously done, I will share those recordings shortly. You can catch up on YouTube. This one will be posted on YouTube after we're finished. And just housekeeping before we get started, I know there's a lot of you that are coming here with questions. We have a lot of those questions we've already gathered in advance. If you have questions, please type them in the Q&A. Starting now, starting anytime, we're going to get to as many of those as possible today and as many of the previously submitted as possible. But if we don't, and you've typed that in the chat, we can get back to you soon. So please make sure you're entering those in, and then we'll get to your question one way or another, even if it doesn't happen in this hour session. Please also feel free to use the chat box to comment on anything that's time critical, or if you have a question that needs right now, raise your hand or type in there. With that, thanks again, Erin Lieberman, Executive Director. I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the deeper dive session here with the Forest Service on implementation of the Explore Act. My caveat before we get started is just a reminder, this webinar is educational only. Reflects our best understanding, and I'm sure the Forest Service would appreciate if we said the same for them, their best understanding of the statute and agency guidance and what steps they're taking. It is not legal advice. So please make sure to not take this as legal advice. Consult your counsel on any permit-specific decisions. Ask us for other non-legal advice specifically about that after the fact. Would also just like to briefly reiterate my thanks to Sadie and team, but you in particular, Sadie, for being here and for the ongoing partnership as we work through this major transition for operators all across the country. And thanks also to other members of the AO team, John Simon, and the man who needs no introduction, David Brown, for being here to make sure that I don't ask stupid questions or to follow up when I do, and just keep us in line. What we'd like to do today is to walk through those specific areas where outfitters still have a lot of uncertainty and where we still have some questions or would like to take a little bit more time to dive a little bit more deeply into some of the questions that we discussed at the conference panel on the Explore Act, especially around the transitional period. Some concepts around self-executing provisions within the Act, surrendered use, allocation mechanics, next steps for directives, things like that. Before I dive into those questions, I just want to give Sadie the opportunity, if you had anything sort of top level you'd like to share with folks just to lead things off.
You bet. Thanks,
All right.
Aaron.
Thanks, Sadie.
First off, thank you for inviting me today. Looking forward to this and definitely looking forward to collaborating with AO. As we move through this process, we're going to have multiple phases of implementation. And what I described at the conference was we are getting ready to implement this spring phase one. One clarifying point on that is that we are only able to, in this first phase, implement the requirements by the law, the technical changes. In many instances, it meant that we were required to pretty much take that language in the act and put it in policy, replace our existing policy that contradicted it with the wording that's in the act. We were not allowed to establish any criteria, guidelines, or standards around some of that language, which I think it's just a heads up that specifics will be anytime we need to look at providing examples or more framework around it than what is the language in the act. We're going to have to go out for notice and comment, and that's going to be in phase two updates. So just a heads up in case you get frustrated with me saying that we can't answer that right now, but we are going to address that in phase two. So thanks, Aaron, for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, we ready to dive in?
You bet.
All right. So let's start with the immediate. And there's really a series of questions to all of
Mhm.
these, but the immediate sort of practical sets of questions between now and April, which I think is sort of that's the time
Phase
frame you're
one.
shooting for. Yep, for phase
Yep.
one. Between now and April, what should operators expect? And I guess maybe as a more specific question to start that off, um, will renewals be held pending the directive updates?
No, as long as those renewals are scheduled, the expiration dates are going, we're going to continue administering our permits as usual. And so they will get renewed if it expires. And then when we publish the phase one, where we need to make those amendments to the permit, that will happen after the renewal. So with an amendment, we'll address that when the publication occurs of phase one.
So in other words, Outfitter has a permit that renewed or that is renewing this month. They received their permit. Their permit has outdated uh, verbiage relative to what is now law, explore provisions in it.
Mhm.
That will be updated later once the directives are issued and in whatever sequence they end up coming up, right?
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
and I mean, maybe more specifically, if somebody has a permit that is reissued now using that pre-explore language, what should that operator do in the immediate term?
That right now, that is what is in effect per policy because Explorer Act was not self-enacting. So we need to update our policy in order to align with Explore, and that's when it will be implemented. So for now, you're going to see old language in your permits. And then when the new language gets published, that's when we will take the initiative to go ahead and amend those permits. So you will see old language for now until the new policy gets published.
John?
Yep. Thanks, Sadie. Can you talk a little bit about how that amendment process will work and what
You bet.
providers should
You bet.
expect from that standpoint?
You bet. So we are working very diligently right now behind the scenes within the agency to develop an implementation plan. We've got a team of people who are some of our subject matter experts, and we're coming together to look at what would be the smoothest way to roll this out. The important thing to remember is once that new policy, phase one policy, gets published, that we allow the policy to guide us. Your permit is still valid and in effect, but we are going to look to policy where you might have a permit language or amendments that contradict what the policy says. So it's going to be, we've got over like 3,500 permits to amend. That's a lot of permits, and we can't get it done all at once. So we are looking at providing the field templates, a process, recommendations, looking at operating seasons for when it makes sense. You know, if you have a snowmobile permit, maybe we can wait and put that back and do the immediate summer operation ones first. But we're looking at a lot of different methods in which we can make the implementation process smoother right now. And I do want to add to that a lot of the permit administrators, we are short-staffed. I think that a lot of people are aware of that. So we will be getting to this as soon as we can and as orderly as we can. But we do want to ask for some patience and grace in that process that we do it. But the important thing to remember here is once that policy does get published, that's going to guide the agency in how we move forward with fee calculations and all the changes. That makes sense, Sean?
Yeah, thank you.
And I apologize, I blipped out there again. My internet went out. Hopefully that stops happening. I think maybe still in line with that question, unless I missed one in the interim. But so there will be forthcoming guidance for how folks, and there shouldn't be too much that the operator needs to do as I think a takeaway.
Correct.
For the Title III provisions to be amended into their permit. It'll just be staggered according to how the Forest Service determines makes most sense to do this across 3,500 to 5,000 permits, right?
Exactly.
And I guess a question that I have and that, we've maybe chatted about a bit before, but for use, for the use reviews and renewals, for those use reviews and renewals already issued since January 4, 2025, since the enactment of the act, how will the Forest Service handle those? Like, will the Forest Service re-review past decisions automatically just as a set part of this process? I think you already spoke to how those non-compliant permits will be amended, but will the Forest Service be doing any review of those past actions in this interim period to try to apply that guidance in areas where it stands to have longer running impacts past, the amendment of a permit? Does that make sense?
Sure. So you're asking between now and publication of phase one for the reallocation that's occurring? Is that the
As an
scenario?
example, yeah. So like somebody who happens to be caught in this in between where use is being, issued, recalculated, reallocated, et cetera, sort of depending on what the action is for those folks that for whom that is applicable in
Okay.
advance of those directives coming out, but the effects of which will carry over well past that implementation. Does that help clarify it at all? Does that make it more
Yeah.
confusing?
So once we publish the policy that's in line with like the reallocation, the new way of the new methods of determining all the reallocation and the fees, at that point, they will look at it going forward using those new methods. I'll have to do a little research and get back to you on the interim if there is an opportunity and how we want to handle that, because I know there will be some inquiry going on that, and I'll add that to the list of questions that we can get back to you with an answer on, because between now and then, just diving into like how are we going to because we might be in between periods, that kind of thing. So I think we need to really lean into, and I'll have in our implementation team, we'll really dive into that so we can get you a good firm, consistent answer across the board on that, and provide that with our permit administrators too, so everyone's clear on that. It's a
Yep.
good
And I know
question.
that's a tough one, and we'd be happy, I hope it goes
Perfect.
without saying, we'd be happy to help out, provide inputs. We're certainly hearing from folks. And
Perfect. Yeah,
I
we'll
do see
follow
Dave,
up with you.
and I do see David, you raised your hand there. Do you have a follow-up on that?
Well, it's pretty much the same question. I think the key is that a lot of permits are going to be expiring, that expired last year, and then that's going to kick off the use reviews and a reassignment of use. And that's the real issue, I think, that's going to be problematic if they're using the old
Hmm.
formulas instead of the ones that are in Explore.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We'll
it
lean
would
into
make
that
sense,
and
I
get
think,
back to
to
you. Mhm.
allow that permit to, I mean, to wait until the policy comes out to reissue that permit and do the use review.
Yeah, we'll look into that and get some clarity around that because just like you guys are having these questions, that'll be something we'll want to line out for our permit administrators too. So I'll tag that one and get back to you on that to provide a more definitive answer.
Excellent. Uh, in terms of, I guess maybe the next logical question would be about self-executing versus not. And so you
Yeah,
already spoke to this sort of on the top level, and we've talked about it somewhat separately. But would you mind sort of, I think there's like what,
you
18
bet.
core provisions in Explore in Title III that the Forest Service is tasked with. Would you mind sort of just giving the sort of
You
outline
bet.
of which of those the Forest Service is looking at as self-executing versus not, and any sort of flags that are worth raising on any of those?
So where our policy does not speak to the provision at all, or it does not contradict, or we don't have policy, then we're going to defer to the law. For example, exculpatory agreements. We have no policy on that. So we're deferring. That is basically self-executing, as you describe it, Aaron. We're deferring to that to guide us in how we're looking at that because we don't have any policy on that in place right now. So consistently, we can apply that across the board. Where we do have policy that is not in line with Explore, to make sure that we're all consistent and doing it in a consistent manner because that's what guides our agency and our permit administrators and authorized officers. We are going to update that at which point, when it gets published, it will take effect. Which is why you see deadlines in Explore Act saying, okay, agency, we're giving you 2 years. We know that your policy doesn't align with this now, but by this date, if you don't have it, then this is going to be your default, for example. So it's where our policy doesn't align. We need to bring that into incorporate it so that it does align with the Explore Act, at which
Mhm.
point we will publish policy and change that policy and so that we can implement it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Um, and then maybe in terms of the key areas where outfitters may be most interested.
You bet.
Um, so those core provisions, and sorry, just let me pull my list in front of me really briefly. Um, looks like that maybe moved it somewhere else, unfortunately.
That's okay. Do you want me to speak to the changes that they can anticipate for phase one?
Yes, please.
You bet. So the main ones that we really want to highlight because it is going to require some cooperation on the permit holders part two is when in many circumstances just because of the timing, if their estimated use is submitted and estimated fees are billed prior to the publication of this the phase one, they will be billed under the existing now in effect fee determination method.
Hmm.
However, several permit holders will have to on their actual use because if we publish those new policies from between estimated use and actual use, that actual use will be billed on the new phase one policy going into effect. And with that, the permit holder, it has to elect which fee determination method that they want to use for actual use. And I acknowledge that this timing is not good in the middle of operating season when we're going to be reaching out and asking you, what do you want for how, and as far as fee determination method goes for the actual use. But they won't be able to bill unless the holder has elected that. So just a heads up to all the holders that you will be getting that question from your permit administrator and need to provide that election before we can bill.
And I'll just add that we're developing tools for how to calculate the fee methodologies. And once we have those developed, we will share them out so that outfitters can run their numbers through to see which one would better fit their business so they can make an educated decision of what would work best for them.
Yes, thanks, Amanda.
That's
And
very,
you
very
cannot
helpful.
and you cannot just say, give me the cheapest one. The holder must elect. That question came up.
That was a question that came up. I was there as well. And I thought, it's a fair question. Give me the cheap one.
It is.
I'll take that horse meat hot dog. I guess maybe a follow-up on the fee, since that is that's an area we certainly got a lot of questions, and where frankly it's some of the most complicated stuff in Title III. Maybe just to reiterate what you said to make sure that I and other folks are hearing it correctly. That is one of those areas from Title III where there will need to be additional guidance developed by the agency, and that is planned to be developed by or before that April sort of deadline or goal for phase one. Is that first part correct so far?
So phase one, yes, it will incorporate all of the fee determination methods, and we will have those different methodologies lined out for folks. And I do want to note that throughout this entire process, we are trying to be as consistent with BLM as possible. I know that they are releasing their new guidance today. And in that effort, ours will be very similar to what theirs looks like, just for heads up for folks.
Yep. And then so what outfitters should be thinking about in advance of that is, one, looking out for either taking it upon themselves or looking out for the templates from the Forest Service that y'all are developing to be able to game out or calculate out in their particular operation which of these fee options would be best for their operation, right?
Absolutely.
And generally there's it's like a two-path choose your own adventure generally, two different versions. So 2A2B of the adjusted gross revenue or predetermined flat fee, which at this point is $6 per visitor use day, but could end up shifting to be in alignment with the BLM 7 and then, whatever that might be going forward. Is that also correct so far?
Yeah, it will be $6 in phase one in alignment with the act. Yeah.
And would it be fair to say that when outfitters across the country, across different forests are looking at those different fee options, that they should be able to pick either the predetermined flat rate or the AGR, regardless of what was previously in place in their particular instance or on the forests?
Alaska is the exception. They have statute that guides their fees in a different manner. For the rest of the country, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be the flat fee method or the 3% of AGR. And if 3% of AGR is elected, then there is another choice in how the AGR is calculated.
Yep. Which I can share that out with folks, and I do have them all aimed out. And Karen, I do see we have Jack, but I have one more sort of clarifying follow-up, which
I also have a question from Foyt that he's asking for an example on this because he's not tracking clearly. So he's asking for an example on the formula. So both of those things, but if there's a chance you can share an example that might help this right here.
So, for example, the first question will be you need to elect between the flat fee and the percent of AGR, and it's 3% for outfitting and guiding of AGR. So that's the first election, and the $6 is per. The act calls it visitor use day. Forest Service usually refers to it as a service day. Same thing. So that $6 per service day, or under the AGR, the 3% of AGR. And then the AGR is calculated in two different methods. I don't know them off the top of my head because it is fairly complex. One involves exclusions of all the revenue generated off forest, and then the other is an option to prorate it if for fees if you choose not to do the exclusion method. And that is a very general overview of it. Definitely open up that act. And like I said, BLM is releasing their guidance today, and it will look very, very similar to that for further clarification.
Yep. Yeah, and thank you, Karen. And thank you, Foy. It does get complicated, especially the different AGR approaches. We have some outlines of those. They're in the act as well, but we have some outlines of those. So if anybody here, otherwise, please feel free to reach out if you want me to either point you to it or provide sort of the summary that we have on those different fee option formulas.
I think my question was less about the fee and more about the actual use calculation, Sadie. It sounds like that might change mid-swing on our permits. And is that right?
The actual use itself reporting will not change. Just the fees related to the fee method related to the actual use at the end, and we'll reconcile between the estimated and the actual use at the end.
Okay. That's what I was going to say. The estimated you might be billed under existing, and your actual might be under the new Explore Act fee.
Yeah, and that was sort of the final part.
So there'd be
yeah, and Amanda, that was the final part that I was going to sort of close the loop on this question, because I think that will be. I mean, you guys are doing it when you can, which makes sense. Appreciate it. I think that will be confusing for folks that aren't watching this webinar, maybe even for those that are. For being billed with the pre-Explore approach, and then but ultimately, like, pending any unforeseen variables or changes, that ultimately that's the estimated, but the actual billing will be according to whatever fee option I elected for under Explore come spring. So a couple of the just
come fall. At the end of your season, whenever your season ends.
Yep. I see, David, you raised your hand. Was that on this one as well?
Yeah, just a quick question. Yep. You may not be able to answer this, but one of the issues that some outfitters have is they're visiting multiple units, and they have a permit for each. It'll be one trip and let's say a kids camp or something, and they go to multiple forests during a 2-week period, and they have a separate permit for each forest.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the calculation of adjusted gross receipts is the portion of the charge that they give to their clients for those additional forest visits. Is that deducted from, the calculation of adjusted gross receipts for that one permit? Do you understand what I'm saying?
So you have multiple permits with multiple fees, correct?
Well, it'd be the same fee. If you're doing adjusted gross receipts, it's going to be 3%. But what was happening for a lot of people, they were getting, say a trip is for 2 weeks, it's say $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing 6 different forests. So they were getting charged 3% on the entire $1,000 for each permit.
According to the new fee determination methods under Explore, then if it's not related to your trip on that particular forest, you can exclude that. And yeah, I encourage you to go ahead and look at that. It's pretty, yeah, it's pretty clear in the act. So yeah, we just took that language and then put it in our policy. So yeah, if revenue not generated on that forest will not be included.
Now
Hopefully
that
that
was
can be
the
baked
flat
into
fee. That was
the
the whole
use
justification
calculations.
for flat fee. It's so much easier to calculate in those
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Or it will be directly prorated. I have to qualify myself. Or if, depending on the AGR method that they choose, it will be it will get directly, offset by the number of days on forest. The off forest discount has changed. It's going away and being replaced by one of the methods of the AGR.
Yep. Well, I don't envy the person who is developing the templates, because hopefully that will be a part of the templates that outfitters can use.
100%.
And hopefully that will also be clarified to the part of the education going out to forests, because I know that's come up. We heard it, Sadie, when we were up in Montana, but I've heard it from other folks in different parts of the country as well. So really good question, David, as always. Karen, I saw Jack. Jack has his hand up. Jack, is your question sort of in this vein as well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hi, Sadie.
Hi, Jack. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see a lot of your faces. Anyhow, my question is that our 10-year permits were reissued last April of 25, so it was after the passage of the act. And I'm wondering whether the Forest Service is going to get a hold of us or whether we have to keep knocking on the Forest Service door as to when we transition into the Explore Act. Can you clarify that a little bit, Sadie?
I can. Yeah. So we will be establishing a process to amend those permits so that they do reflect the policy language that we are changing per the Explore Act. However, we acknowledge that there is going to be an interim because we have so many permits, and the work to amend it is going to take some time. And so in the interim, we are where that permit might not have the same language or clause is not what we have published in our Forest Service handbook and Forest Service manual for this phase 1 this spring. We will be using what is in the handbook, the clauses. Even though they're in there, we're going to use the handbook and default to that. But your permit is still valid, even though we're going to have some inconsistent clauses in there. Does that make sense, Jack?
Yeah, so the message I'm hearing in cowboy terms is you're saying, Jack, don't call us, we'll call you.
No, but do, Jack, be very aware of what those changes are too, so that we can all work together to make sure that they are getting implemented properly. But as part of our process, we will be contacting you. Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jack, send anybody here too. But please send me an email if you think of it afterward. We have a tracker where I'm just trying to help the Forest Service as well compile like where things are and are not being implemented, what people are being told, what problems they're running into, where communication gaps exist. So
that's awesome.
Please make use of that. There's been limited buy-in so far, but it's hopefully folks will start using it a little bit more. That'd be really helpful. Anybody that's in the same situation. John, I saw you raised your hand.
Yeah, thanks. Before we leave the fees questions,
sure.
Could you, Sadie, could you talk about how the minimum annual fee language in the Explore Act may or may not play into any fee determinations?
You bet. Currently, we have a minimum annual fee, and it is in line with the BLM. Actually, it's we're going to be updating it here, I think, in March of this year. We've hit that three-year mark again. So for the minimum annual fees, both Forest Service and BLM align with the determination after they look at indexes, whatnot, over the past 3 years. And it's not just the minimum annual fee, but also the assigned site fee. And the BLM does do their flat fee in that same schedule as well. So all three of those get updated by the BLM at the same time, and the Forest Service follows suit for, at this present time and with these updates, it will be for the assigned site minimum and the minimum outfitting and guiding fees.
Is that what you're looking for, John?
Yeah, and so to be clear, just so because we've been getting some questions about this, so I think folks are trying to understand how the minimum annual fee meshes or relates to the other fee election processes.
So the minimum is in effect right now. Actually, it's I don't want to speculate because I can't remember what it is at the moment, but nothing is changing there as far as the minimum fee goes and how we've been administering permits in the past. For both the minimum fee and the assigned site minimum fees, we are consistently moving forward with how we have been implementing it. No changes there.
Okay, so then that would be a floor then.
Correct.
Or whatever.
Yeah, if your fee calculations come up under that minimum, and it's in the hundreds. I can't remember exactly what it is right now, but it is in the hundreds of like 100 and I don't know, 50 or something like that. 130. Thank you.
Yeah.
That we would charge you that 130 if your fee calculations come up under that. Does that make sense? That's what's meant by the minimum. Okay.
And there were a couple questions in the chat or in the Q&A, thanks for using that, folks, that relate to this. I think some of them may kind of have been answered already. I'm just going to look at them really briefly. Amy, you asked about making payments before. So actually, Amy asked, I guess I'll let you speak to it, but I think you covered it. Amy asked, will we have to make payments before new fee structures are in place? We don't want to overpay without a way to get a refund. And I'm guessing, because I can relate, what that really means is like through, going through the rigmarole of trying to figure that out. So I think go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is on the radar for permit administrators as well. So definitely, if you anticipate, they're trying to estimate, a lot of times they're estimating on the low end so that we don't end up with a, 5-year credit or something like that. Go ahead, Amanda.
I was just going to say, we don't like to overcharge as much as you guys do not like to be overcharged. None of us likes to work through that process. So we will do our best to keep those at minimums.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this will be a doozy, I think, for the agency, right?
Yeah.
Because especially because outfitters are able to elect their fee option, and because in a great many cases that will be transitioning from 3% AGR formula to a per visitor use day flat fee, there will be a fairly significant delta in a lot of those cases in the outfitter's favor, which is good. But between those two things, which is good for the agency, but which will necessarily cause some headaches there, in particular on the agency side. So it sounds like guidance forthcoming on how the agency is going to navigate that and communicate it out to operators.
And administrators. We will make sure that we really speak to this in our permit administrator trainings about the potential for that huge gap. Like Amanda said, we don't want that either. It's just not good business practice. So we will be just bringing that to their attention and being cognitive of that. And when billing for estimated use, that we definitely don't want to do a robust. I know some units in Region 2 are just billing minimum fee for the estimated use. And there'll be some discretion, but encouraging to try to prevent those big gaps from estimated to actual.
Yep. Okay. There were a couple others that I think we did address in the sort of fee area before moving on. Ernie asked about, what would the day use fee be for a short day horseback ride with flat fees? Basically, that's going to be whatever that minimum
$6.
visitor use. Yeah, it's going to be whatever that minimum visitor use day fee is, Ernie. So it'll be $6 now. It will change. Going to another question, like, will that flat fee be adjusted? Yes, I think Sadie just spoke to sort of the immediate adjustment they're looking at in line with the BLM come March, I think you were saying. But also there's a schedule, for lack of a better term, right, going forward for how that's adjusted year over time.
Yeah, so the immediate term BLM will adjust theirs in March. However, we need to go out for notice of comment to say
Right.
that we are going to adjust in line with the BLM. So until that happens, our changes are $6 a day. So phase 2 implements will look to align with BLM, but for now, phase 1, $6.
And phase
Okay.
2 will be the notice and comment piece.
Yep.
Where we'll take that feedback from the industry.
I think we'll be okay with $7 as well, as a whole. Okay, I think that's a pretty round. John, David, anything I'm missing or that we need to touch on for fees? Okay. Let's see. Moving on to another area. I think we have, Sadie, I think I do have some questions that came out of the conference panel around
Sure.
the specifics of surrendered use process, advance notice, circumstances beyond provider's control,
Yep.
etc. My understanding, just to maybe save us all time and make the most use of the time, is that for the most part, so questions around like what counts as circumstances beyond the provider's control, things like that, are those areas where you'll have to develop the
You're
actual
correct.
criteria,
Yeah, notice and
etc.
comment. Anything
Yep.
we're establishing those standards, guidelines around. Up until then, the language from the act in phase 1 is going to you'll see that just reflected, and the authorized officer then will have the discretion as far as implementation, as long as he is in line with what policy states, or she.
And then that will also be the process that, or if not as part of actual public comment, then alongside
Phase
it, I'm
2.
guessing where phase
Yep.
2, where you're going to be developing the actual processes and forms associated with that. So, how much in advance an outfitter has to request a
Exactly.
surrender for half credit, etc.
You got it. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? I mean, I guess I was asking folks who can't really raise their hands or tell me if that makes sense to the crowd participating. I think the overall, I guess to maybe summarize it for folks, I think there are some questions that the industry has around what this looks like, in particular in the early days, right? Like, unfortunately, there are any number of things that impact our seasons every single season, from fire to floods to, just random things around an operation. And so I think some folks who've reached out to us are a bit nervous about, we
Yep.
expect this guidance is forthcoming, but our season is, even more immediate. And so how do we mesh those two things? How do we actually go through the process, make sure that we are surrendering use in the way that we need to, have any guidance there before our season actually starts? Do you think that there's any opportunity for sort of interim, I don't even want to use a formal term, right? But any sort of like tips for operators, or something that we could work with you to provide in advance of actual guidance or actual rulemaking in those instances, so that folks have some sense of what to do and how to do it?
Sure. And as always, working with your permit administrator to figure out what is going to work best on your particular unit is always a good way to go. because we won't have specifics as far as you have to surrender by this time, and then we will let you know, what days are available by this date, that kind of thing. It's going to be, there won't be guidance around that with this phase one. And so the best we can do in phase one is to just work with your permit administrator and try to figure out what's going to make the most sense, and how to best operate under that existing policy until we can go out with phase two. And this is where we want to collaborate with America Outdoors to figure out what does make the most sense. How is this going to be most useful to permit administrators and the permit holders to figure out how planning trips, you know, how far in advance do you know when you're going to surrender those days? How far in advance do you need to know what days are available that were surrendered so that we can plan those trips? So there's actually, there will be a lot of collaboration around ironing out those particular questions in phase two.
Yeah. And I would just say during phase one, just frequent open communication with your permit administrator, and know that some of the questions you have, they won't have answers to. And so they'll have to reach out to Sadie and I or the regional program manager to work through what might be the best pathway for everybody to land with serving the public.
In advance of the additional education and guidance coming out in the spring, this is gonna be the toughest. I mean, the ongoing toughest period, right? Because hasn't happened yet. In which case, use the form, folks, so we can help let people know what questions are being asked.
100%. Yeah, we appreciate that.
So there's other question sets. I do want to make sure I just brought up the Q&A again, make sure that I'm not just ignoring people there. And it's great because it kind of connects with the other area I was hoping to chat with you about, which has to do with sort of pools, redistribution mechanics, allocation criteria, stuff like that. But Alexa asks, I'm just going to read it verbatim. Does the Explore Act change how the Forest Service evaluates or administers existing user day allocations on shared use rivers? Specifically, will the criteria or process for determining individual or pooled user day authorizations be revised in light of the Act's guidance on streamlining and flexibility?
Ooh, that might be a little too specific. So the Act is legislation and will be required. So in certain circumstances, we may see where forests have to look at aligning with the Act, but as far as overall, it's really going to depend on what the individual unit has in place as far as plans, CRMPs, that kind of thing, especially that they might have to take a closer look to make sure that they are aligning with the Act.
David? You're muted if you're talking, David, but I saw your hand. There you go.
Yeah, I think I saw that question, and I think some of those issues are really more management plan issues than issues that were covered by the Act. The one exception to that is that a lot of the activity group permits that there were some provisions in there that weren't our provisions, but that exempted them from some of the permitting requirements. And so it's possible that they're not going to, it depends on whether their use is determined to have nominal effects or not. But in some of those cases, they may not be trying or needing to access pools or wanting to.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I mean, and Sadie, feel free to interrupt me, but just for folks listening in, I mean, I think what David's speaking to is that with there's a couple overlapping provisions in Explore. If a group meets certain criteria for nominal effects on a resource, they may not need to ultimately apply for permitted days, right? Temporary permit or otherwise, that they can just do the thing if that nominal effects determination is approved or is granted in the affirmative, meaning that they wouldn't be pulling out of an overall capacity cap on those permitted days if they're otherwise doing that. So if you're in an area on a forest where there's, huge group gatherings that previously may have accessed use through permitted days, temporary permits, etc., they may not any longer be pulling out of that in the same way.
And in some
I
cases,
do want to clarify that the Forest Service did already have nominal effects determination as an option, but it was under our planning our planning regs and policy. So it is now in phase one going to exist in the outfitting and guiding policy as well.
Yep. Okay, I have a question around temporary permit caps. Before I get there, I just want to make sure that I hit all the ones in the Q&A that come in. So Trey asks, and I mean, I think we touched or chatted about this as well, Sadie, but Trey asks, what will be the streamlining process for obtaining, maintaining, reporting on multiple permits in a single forest or in adjoining forests? I currently hold 3 permits through 2 adjoining forests in a single watershed. Will or can the Explorer Act help to simplify these maintenance and reporting burdens? So there is multi-jurisdictional permitting language in the Explorer Act. But Sadie, do you have any response to that?
So that is not covered in the phase one of Explore. That is going to require us looking at establishing those more guidance around what the actual language of Explore has in it. So we anticipate that'll be included with phase two updates with notice and comment. For folks to have an opportunity to kind of review on here's how we think this should be done. Please give us your feedback and then move forward with it.
Okay.
Aaron, real quick, there's also one in the chat. Jim asks, does the GRFS fee policy continue?
Oh, so for those permits that are issued under a supplemental resort permit, which would be a 4I, no, it's not. I can't remember what the format number is. It's called supplemental outfitting and guiding permit for a resort or marina. And those are currently billed under the GRFS and just calculated in with those fees. And at this time, if we could not make any changes to those per these changes that we are, since this is FLORIA, the authority, and those permits are under the Term Permit Act is the authority that they are issued under. So for now, under phase one, those will still be billed under the GRFS, the graduated rate fee system.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a couple minutes left. Karen, please keep letting me know as they come in elsewhere or folks are raising their hands because I want to make sure and give time to people who took the time to tune in. But one that I've personally had a number of questions about has to do with temporary permits, temporary permit conversions, caps, timelines surrounding that. So I believe that when we chatted in December, when you were on the panel down at the AO conference, you mentioned that the 200-day temporary permit cap may be removed before April. And I guess maybe the top level question to start is like, what's the timeline there? Is it still looking the same?
Yes. Phase one, there will be per the Explore Act, there is no maximum service days, and so we've aligned with that. And in our phase one policy updates, there will be no cap on service days in a temporary permit.
So the only cap on a temporary permit going forward, once the handbook is updated with that guidance, will just be within any other sort of management plan or other capacity cap, like more categorically. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Policy won't put limits on how many they can look at adding. It's open. So yeah, it'll be determined through the proposal, the NEPA process, other methodology.
And then this may be also a rulemaking question related to it, but on the 2-year conversion pathway. So for folks listening in, there's a lot of different changes, right? But one of them is temporary permits shifting to a 2-year temporary permit as the default base, right? And maybe just the mandatory 2-year. I see you nodding, so that's good news for me.
Yeah.
No caps on the amount of use that may, barring other caps, be allocated for that temporary permit, but also a sort of built out process for converting that temporary permit into a priority use permit. I know that some folks on the call here and a lot of outfitters nationwide are very interested in that because that's been a really difficult and painful process trying to convert to priority use permits. Maybe one question, as it will be one of the more operative ones, is so now those 2-year temporary permits will have a annual performance review. Is that right? And
Correct.
in that performance review, do you have, this may be a rulemaking question, but what will satisfactory look like? Is that just going to be based on the strict new monitoring criteria, or is that
It
something that's
will.
going to be fleshed
Yeah,
out more
and
fully?
that is one thing also that we did update in phase one is the monitoring. So per the act, so monitoring the permit for compliance with terms and conditions is going to determine successful performance or not. So that has been updated in this first phase one.
John?
And further to that point, so the 2 years of satisfactory performance, could that, as I understand it, and I think this is right, it could be established over 1 2-year temporary contract or temporary permit, or 2 1-year temporary permits if you're going to go that route. Is that right?
We do not speak specifically to that because the act didn't speak specifically to that in this first phase. It says it has the two at the end of the 2-year period. So we just use that language from the act right now. Again, anything more than that, and this issue did come up, that it seems appropriate to address that through notice and comment in phase one or phase two, sorry.
Anything else that we should be thinking about on the temporary permit front, Sadie?
Jim,
Sorry, go ahead.
Jim has a question too. Will priority use caps remain, or can we ask for more outfitter and guide use?
So basically, where those priority, like for example, a wilderness management plan that identifies priority use or outfitting and guiding use days, through those management plans, those will remain. And there won't be any change to that through this process. You'll have to update that management plan, which I think maybe John or David spoke to a little bit earlier, in order to increase those days to make more days available if they are limited by those by that process, either comprehensive river management plan, wilderness management plan, visitor use management plan, of the likes, where it does establish allocations for those particular types of uses.
The only maybe caveat or qualifier to that, correct me if I'm wrong, Sadie, would be to the extent that Explorer does establish these pools and that use may be surrendered and then reallocated, right? Depending, that there could be an opportunity if, say, there's a number of operators. So, like, regardless of what scenario we're talking about, right? If you're doing a specific activity and there is a pool or a total limit of allocation of priority use allocation for that activity across the outfitters that are permitted for it on that Forest Service unit, then in that case, if there were remaining activity that was put back into the pool upon review, you could end up picking up additional use at your 5-year use review up to 25% beyond your highest year. That was a really wordy way to say it, but there is maybe, I think maybe the takeaway to that question is, as you said, Sadie, like ultimately these are going to be limited by, and as David pointed out earlier, like ultimately many of these caps are limited by management plans or different types of resource management plans, right? And those have to change independently of permit administration in order for the permit itself to be able to adjust up. But there are some mechanisms for permit administration within Explorer that if folks pay attention and take advantage of them, could be beneficial, especially if there's unused capacity there.
Well said.
It's the last time somebody's going to say that to me in a while. Yeah, got one. See, John thinks it's hilarious. That's the one I'll get this year. Wait for 27. What do y'all think? We have 1 minute left on the scheduled time. I have zero respect generally for people's time and going over, but I know that is not what I'm supposed to feel or how Karen's probably going to direct me. How do we feel about questions in the chat or elsewhere?
We've got time. I've got time. I can hang out.
I think at this point, I don't see any more questions. If anybody wants to raise their hand, like I'm happy to allow you. You can jump in if anyone has further questions, but I think we've got to all of those that have been asked so far.
Okay. Well, I have some additional questions if folks are happy to. Do you have time to stay around just a couple minutes more, Sadie? Okay. I apologize.
And we got it. Oh, no. Good. Go.
Yep. Okay. So I think low risk should be a pretty quick one because I believe that the criteria for that is something that's going to probably go out to public comment is going to be a phase 2 situation. Is that correct?
The low risk as far as insurance.
So what qualifies as low risk? Yeah. So sorry, I should have explained that more. So Section 319, sort of framing the question for the group, including the person I'm asking it of, allows for low risk activities to be exempt from insurance requirements.
Sure.
But what that means is not exactly clear, like what low risk may be. And we have had some questions from folks asking, like is half day horseback riding low risk? Not really knowing what that definition may be.
Correct. We do not have our existing policy now actually allows for authorized officers to make the determination if the activity is such low risk that that insurance is not required. So it'll probably look a lot the same, but we don't have anything past that in existing guidance. And yes, that potentially could be something that we could address more in phase 2, where we put additional guidelines criteria around that.
Okay. Maybe zooming back out a little bit, rulemaking and internal policy. So I suppose I do have like a little list of what I think you went over before, and I may have even received one of these lists from you before. But what are the core areas that you think outfitters need to be tuned in, that AO and outfitters need to be tuned in for providing comment of those provisions that you flagged for requiring rulemaking?
We don't have those as of yet. So what our process is, we're going to get all these technical changes updated, get them published, and then as soon as those are published, we are diving into that phase 2 that will go out for notice and comment. And that's where we want to really coordinate with America Outdoors to help us frame. I mean, let's try to get this right up front instead of having just the Forest Service do what they think. And then you guys, provide us with a dose of comment. Our approach is going to be to collaborate with partners such as America Outdoors up front so that we can meet the intent of the act and meet the needs of the permit holders and from the permit administrator perspective as well, to try to make this as smooth and efficient and modernize it as best we can and meet the intent of Explore, is to try to get ahead of our where we are at existing with our kind of old processes and address these issues that are ongoing. So I love the idea that you have, hey, this is a problem, this is inconsistent, and having people, your members, report those issues and kind of get a list of them. Then that's great. We can address all of those up front in our draft policy when we put it out in phase 2.
Yeah, and that's I think it's my question there was more so me thinking ahead at
Sure.
how do we focus in on those areas where we can provide where the impact stands to be most substantive for the folks we represent, but also where we can provide the most substantive and helpful information or framing for the agency in advance of it getting too far. Because oftentimes, as you know, like oftentimes we're these things take on a momentum of their own, and it's hard to really influence or be part of the conversation early enough if you don't poke your head in there. So just trying to winnow down that category or the number of areas where we're really trying to reach out and provide insight. So, the low risk insurance discretion, that's not one that obviously impacts folks who are outfitters already as often. So triaging which of those potential areas for comment we'd want to be most engaged on. Maybe as a final area for questions, I think I do have this.
I
This will
do.
be a good summary. Oh, go ahead,
I
Karen.
have one in the chat real quick too, if we can
Yeah.
hit that one. Is there a revenue bracket that the flat fee applies to? Or stated another way, is there a revenue amount limit above which the flat fee cannot be applied to for that operator?
No, not in phase one.
Have you guys done the financial or the fiscal impact analysis on this yet?
We are deferring to law on this,
Yep.
which does not require that.
Yep. Okay, maybe and Karen, feel free to interrupt me if folks have more specific ones than the stuff we've covered today or things we hadn't covered. But I guess maybe as like a top level question, if you had to distill all of this down to sort of the top 3 to 5 things. And when I say this, I mean Title III Explorer, top 3 to 5 things and where we are now that outfitters should do right now to start preparing for Explore Act implementation. What would they be? And I'll tell you just a couple in advance of your answer, sort of the things that I've been hearing from folks or that we've been encouraging folks to do, which is, reviewing your use reports against the different fee options available to you to elect from to identify which would be best. Chatting with your permit administrator or folks in your forest about the process for obtaining permits. So like that permit transition set of questions, documenting circumstances beyond your control that are happening in this interim period in particular, or that may impact that 5-year look back, reading your permit. That's just something I'm telling people to do all the time. Things like that. But Sadie, I guess the question to you, like if you had to say a list of like, here's 3 to 5 things that I'd really encourage folks to do now, what would those things be?
The first one is to read that Title III of the Act to just, you're not going to understand it, but even if you don't, it gives you an awareness of what changes are to come. Because, we're just doing the first phase, but there will be additional phases. And for this first phase, the fee determination method, just to echo you, that is where we need participation from the holders as well. And the next thing is to reach out and communicate with your permit administrators. Because I am just acknowledging right up front that this is going to be a challenging process, and we know we are going to make mistakes, and we are going to address those mistakes as we go. We know that we don't have this perfect, but we want to move forward with it and make accomplishments. And so we are going to go into it knowing that we will have to address some issues. We're trying to anticipate all of them, but we know we aren't going to catch them. And working through you and the board to really come up with these glaring issues, we can get those resolved as fast as we can, as opposed to, calling your individual permit administrator, have those conversations. But if you're seeing overriding themes and issues coming up, that you're hearing from your neighbor or from your members too. We want to lean into those and approach them from and make sure, that we're getting a broad sweep of it, not just identifying on one individual unit these issues if it is happening across the board. We really, from that high level, want to be able to address as much as we can from that level, as opposed to just going back and forth with permit administrators on some issues that are actually pretty prevalent throughout the country. That makes sense?
Okay, I think so.
Great.
Well, I think just looking, I don't think I saw anything else in there. I think we could probably close it out for now. We have a lot more questions. Hopefully we'll have more opportunities to do this going forward. And when I say we, I mean me, but also I know other folks do as well.
You bet. And there might be an opportunity after we get these published too, that we're more than happy to tie back in with you folks. And we want to provide those tools as well that Amanda was speaking to where we're looking at spreadsheets that will have formulas in them to help you understand what your fee determination methods will be. And so we'll work with you all as we get those developed so that not only, for our permit administrators, but for the permit holders as well, to have that same document that they're working off of, I think will be helpful.
Yeah. And, I think I've shared it with you, Sadie. I've shared it with Forest Service leadership as well. But if there's areas where we can be, not just helpful in the sense of providing input, which oftentimes is just is somewhat helpful. If there's other things that we can do to provide resources for, communications you'd be looking at putting out, whether to permittees or otherwise, we know y'all are taking on a lot and more than ever. And so please let us know if we can hold up our part of the partnership as well.
We will definitely take you up on that, and we appreciate it. And then, like I said, we're really looking forward to collaborating on these substantive changes in phase 2 right up front in the initial beginnings of writing the policy. So thank you.
Well, Sadie, Amanda, everyone, John, David, Karen, everybody who joined here, thank you so much for being here and taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. It's an endless game. There's a lot of clarifications to keep on following up on, but this has been really helpful as an iterative process for me, and I'm sure for operators as well. We'll continue on our end collecting those examples and encouraging folks to use the field tracker that we've been sending out in different communications in advance of April, and look forward to other ways that we can help you communicate. For those tuned in, if you missed part of it, you can get the full video once we post it to our YouTube channel. Karen's created sort of a playlist specifically for Explorer ongoing education. For those of you that have yet to read Title III, we're thinking about doing some sort of podcast thing soon, and that sounds like a great thing for David Brown to just read to you in that dulcet Southern drawl. So, David, hopefully you're up for that. That's all I have. Anything else from anybody else before we sign off here? Excellent. Silence is assent, David.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.